Hey everybody, Rita here, and I'm going to be going over some tech deck ideas that I've come up with myself. Let's go in here and see what we got. Now, I'm going to go ahead and create a new deck here so you can kind of understand my thought process, and maybe you can see why it's not always viable to go over everyone else's decks that is commonly used. I'm going to obviously start with the Mage class. I will go over the others afterwards. I believe, in all honesty, all of the classes are fairly balanced except for Warrior. I will go over that soon as well. Now, there's actually a few different builds that I have played that works out very well. First one being pure spell damage burst. It can work very well. The second combo is the Mage Giant combo. That is also another one of a typical build, but we're actually gonna kind of stay astray from that, and I'm gonna show you something that it's gonna kind of be like a Mage hybrid build, not with common creatures that you use. But first, let's actually go over all of the Mage spells and what I think of them. The first one is Arcane Missiles. This spell, 1 mana for 3 damage, fairly nice, but the flaw is that it's split among random enemies. Why is this bad? It is good early game, that is what it's designed for, but unfortunately, if you happen to get this card on turn 6 or turn 7, this is not the card you're going to want to draw. It's not going to deal the damage you want to do. In my opinion, this card should not be in your deck. Second card, Ice Lance. While it is nice that it can deal 4 damage to a frozen character, this card requires the character to be frozen. That can be a problem that requires you to use 2 cards, preferably Frostbolt and then Ice Lance. Dealing a total of 7 damage for 3 mana, but again, it requires a combo, and in this game, you kind of want to try and stay away from combos when it comes to getting rid of a single creature. Because it's you only have 2 of each card in the deck, and it just does not work out well that way. Next card is Mirror Image, 1 mana for 2/2 minions with time. Now this is actually a fairly early good card, depending upon the build. This can easily buy you 2 or 3 turns. So depending upon the build of your deck, this could actually be a viable card in the Mage arsenal. Now, Mana Worm. This card is horrendously overpowered. The reason why I say this, and a lot of people would say this too, is because whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 attack. Now, obviously, this is going to favor a mage who is spell heavy. What I mean by that is, the majority of the cards in the deck are spells. Basically, but there's another flaw with this, being that it's a 1/3. If you don't get it within the first 3 turns, it's pretty much going to get fried immediately by by your opponent's bigger creatures. Usually by the 3rd or 4th turn, people will have the ability to summon something that can deal 3 damage to this right afterwards. So this card is very dependent upon you getting it out early. But if you get it out early, it can destroy. I have a game where I actually killed a player on turn 4 with 2 mana worms out, and turn 4 I Pyroblast, and I had 2 mana worms out, and between that and the damage I've been dealing since turn 1, it killed him. It's possible. I will probably go over that combination afterwards, but I just had a really good luck, I would guess. Next card is Arcane Explosion. Now, this card, it's not so good. Dealing 1 damage to all enemy minions, while you might think that is good, it's actually not. Early game, yeah, there's weak minions that could potentially have 1 toughness, but the thing is that you're wasting 2 mana on something that deals 1 damage. This card is pretty much becomes useless later on in the game. If you happen to draw this card on turn 6 or turn 7, it's not going to be a card that's going to help you as well as some other cards that can help you in that game. You gotta think about that, because most of the time if you're playing against a player that is good, if you're trying to play, let's say you're rank 15 or below, you're going to be playing against people that have some experience, so you're going to kind of need to adjust your deck. While this card may work well in the higher ranks, this card is not going to work well in the lower ranks. It's not going to be as effective. Now, Frost Nova here is amazing in any situation. It has the ability just to freeze all minions. This card is viable in every single Mage deck in my opinion. The ability to stop all minions on the opponent side from attacking you could saved my life countless times. At bare minimum, should have at least 1, if not 2 of these in your deck. Just being able to buy time is the point of a Mage deck. You know, Pyroblast, Fireball, you know, you can easily just destroy an enemy with this card. Or, it helps. Next card is Frostbolt. This card is amazing. 2 mana for 3 damage, not that great, but also has the ability to freeze. Now, the reason why this is good is because this card is good early on, because it deals 3 damage for 2 mana, which is not that bad, but later on it becomes more important when you need to control a single enemy. Now, why would you want this card instead of this card? Well, let's say that the guy has one really beefy guy, and you can control the other minions, but you cannot control that huge beefy guy. This card would be a much better alternative to cast in that turn while you deal with the other ones. Now, if they're all big and beefy and you could not handle them and they were going to potentially destroy, yes, Frost Nova. But Frostbolt is, you know, the fact that it deals damage and it freezes, it has 2 good things going against it. Sorcerer's Apprentice. While you may think that this card is good, because it makes your spells cost 1 less, this card just simply dies, in my opinion, way too early for it to be effective. It can actually be used as more of an aggressive type minion, because it's 2 mana for a 3/2. You would more or less be using this card for its 3 attack than anything else. By the time that this costs 1 less becomes useful to you, if the other person knows what they're doing, this guy's going to be dead anyways. Next page. Arcane Intellect. Obviously, card advantage. You need to have card advantage as a page. You're blowing through spells, and you need to replenish your spells. Arcane Intellect is an excellent filter. Replaces a card and gives you 2 more. This card is very good. 3 mana for 2 cards. I'll take that any day of the week. Cone of Cold. Now, this card, being that the cards in this game is kind of limited for what we have right now, this card is good. I would imagine in future sets, this card is not going to become as good, because there's going to be other cards out there that's obviously going to beat it, but being that we're limited on cards, I would say for the time being this card is good. The fact that you need 3 mana to freeze only potentially up to 3 minions, while it is good now, just imagine when future sets come out and there's other things that can do something like Frost Nova, but it freezes all minions and then deals 1 damage. I would imagine that they would create a card like that. Cone of Cold, it does its, you know, if you know what Cone of Cold is from World of Warcraft, Cone of Cold will just freeze, you know, up to 3 minions. Now, this could be very good, and the fact that it's another utility spell, it will buy you turns, but in my opinion, it's not as good as Frost Nova. It's cost effective, but it could potentially assist you in helping out, taking out enemies that have 1 health remaining. If the opportunity presents itself, should it be in a deck? If you're a spell heavy deck, yes, you need to have it in your deck. helps you with control. If you're not spell heavy, I would advise against putting this in your deck. Next one is Counterspell. Now this card is meant to be a combination card. What I mean by that is, especially when you're playing against a priest and you have a mage giant and a mage giant deck, this card saves lives. Basically, you kind of want to have it set up to where you cast this on turn 7 and make sure that there's not enough threats to where you would force the priest to cast something that would probably kill them. You want to save this for when you have your big bomb out. That way, that when they try, let's say a priest tries to Shadow Word Death your giant, this is going to immediately stop it, and that's just going to be devastating because you only have 2 Shadow Word Deaths. Again, it helps your big guy last longer because he's just going to be a giant target, and you want to do whatever you can to keep them alive. Now, obviously, this card has other uses. Like, let's say you're playing against a mirror matchup and another mage, and they play a secret trying to prevent them from dying, like Ice Block. Well, when they try and play that, this is going to counter it and finish the game. It's very situational. I would advise in any mage deck to have at least 1 in it. Ice Barrier. As soon as your hero is attacked, gain 8 armor. This card, 3 mana for basically 8 health. It is amazing, but it requires your hero to be attacked by a minion. This card will not trigger off of Hunter's damage ability. This card will not trigger off of any hero ability. This character must be attacked by a minion in order for that to be active. Now, well, most of the time that can apply. It is, again, a very situational card. I would not prioritize this as good as some of the other cards, but this card is definitely worthy of being able to have 2 in a deck. Ice Block. Now, in the beginning, I've seen that this card was underestimated because it requires you to have low health. Well, you know, with recent people becoming suicidal, Ice Block is amazing. It buys you a turn. You know, let's say turn 8, turn 9, you're just waiting to be able to, you know, do a Pyroblast combo, kill them 1 hit. This just basically buys you a turn. Now, players have gotten smart and know when you do have an Ice Block on you. You know, when they try and attack you with the minion, they know you have a secret, so if they attack you with the minion and Ice Barrier does not trigger, they know that it's either a counter spell or an Ice Block, or a Spellbender. Now, obviously if they try to cast a spell on a minion and it does not do anything, then they can obviously tell that it's an Ice Block. And I've seen some people get smart that will just knock you down to 1 health and then try to finish you off, and then the Ice Block triggers and it's not as good. This card is very good for people who don't know how to probe you to be able to know if it's an Ice Block or not. You know, let's say the guy has a big giant 12/12 that he's beefed up and you're down to 5 health. If the guy has like a 3/2 and a 2/3, if the guy doesn't attack you with the 3/2 and then the 2/3, then he obviously does not know that that could be an Ice Block, and that just saved you being able to suffer a lot of damage, buys you another turn basically, and gives you a little more health if you play it right. Now, Mirror Entity. Now, this card can't be good, but it's better to be saved off for late game. Again, it's dependent upon the kind of deck you're playing. If you are spell heavy, I would advise against playing this card, being that it's not going to be as useful as if you're playing a hybrid or a full-blown minion deck. This card is definitely meant to be late game, and I've seen some ridiculous copies. I've copied Tyrion Fordring. It's just amazing what it can do. And if you get it in your opening hand, I would advise to recycle it, because this card is, again, meant to be for late game, and it can be devastating. Spellbender. This card has, again, is meant to be in a creature type mage deck, obviously, because it triggers when an enemy casts a spell on a minion. Now, why is this card good? As I mentioned, it is just another card that can help your beefy characters out from dying. You know, if you're playing a Mage Giant deck or another deck that's creature heavy, let's say you have a character with Wind Fury out and you want to protect it, obviously they're going to try and kill it by either with spells or with another minion. Now, obviously you're going to have to build a deck around with Taunt and Spellbender. Spellbender prevents the spell being cast on another character. Now, why is this card good? This card can also stop Shadow or Death as well. Yes, even though it's a 1/3, it can still stop Shadow or Death because the spell effect is going to trigger on the token that it summons. So it will still kill your 1/3 even though it does not have 5 power or higher, but it is actually meant to be triggered on the token itself. Next card, Vaporize. When a minion attacks your hero, destroy it. Again, this card really meant to be a late game card, as kind of like Mirror Entity. For 3 mana, it's definitely meant to be late game. If it was 2 mana, I would definitely say keep it in your opening hand. But if you decide to put this in your deck, recycle it if it's in your opening hand. Kirin Mage. Again, this card, not so good. To be honest, secrets are cheap. You're not really gonna save yourself a whole lot of pain by not having this in your deck. If you do, I have not played a deck that has had this card in it. I've never had a problem with it. I would advise against playing this card in your deck personally. You can try it if you want, but I don't see this card being in a vital spot in my deck, and you only have 30 cards. You gotta consolidate it as best as you can. Fireball. Obviously an amazing card. 4 cards, 6 damage, straight up. The card can melt your opponent's face, or it can melt a minion that can potentially kill you. Preferably melt the opponent's face, but then again, you know, melt the opponent's face or die by the creature. Situational card, always good. Now, Polymorph. I have not seen much popularity with this card for some reason. I actually find this card to be amazing, being able to turn any minion into a 1/1 sheep, and that form of crowd control. You know, while Blizzard, deals 2 damage, Flame Strike deals 4 damage. You know what? This just straight up just turns the beefiest guy a character, the beefiest minion that a player has into a 1/1. It could easily be fireballed. Amazing card. I would advise to have at least just 1 in the deck to be able to deal with big guys, because if they have a 12/12 out, the fireball is not going to be able to deal with it as good as a polymorph. Ethereal Arcanist. This card is amazing. It is underestimated, and it can easily overwhelm an opponent. Obviously, it requires you to have a somewhat heavy amount of secrets in your deck, but believe me, when this card comes out, it will impact easily by the end of your following turn that it comes out. Turns out to be a 7/7 for 4 mana. That is ridiculous. That is your goal. Definitely a creature that you want to try and protect if you're going to summon it, because I guarantee the opponent's going to try to do the best they can to deal with it. Water Elemental. This card is meant to be in a creature-heavy mage deck. This card is really meant to assist your beefy characters in winning the game. This card is not meant to win the game by itself. It only has 3 attack. The reason why I like it because it has 6 health. Now, the reason why that's good is he's going to be able to deal with characters that have 4 or 5 health and be able to freeze them twice. Now, why is that good? Again, form of crowd control. That's all what Mage is about. If you creature heavy deck, I would advise to have at least 1 in your deck. Blizzard. Just amazing. That's all I can say. It has the ability of Frost Nova, and it deals 2 damage. Why is 2 damage such a huge deal? because most minions in the game only have 4 health. If a minion has 6 health, you can just chip it away with your low power guys, blizzard everything. If you play this card right, this is just amazing. I don't care if you're spell heavy or creature heavy, this card needs to be in every mage deck you make. 1 if not 2. Flame Strike. This card, while being expensive, is meant to be a sweep. This card is meant to be, oh, it's turn 7, let me play this to kill 2 guys. No, do not play this to kill 2 guys unless you feel that your situation is threatened by those 2 guys and it can kill both of them. Don't play this card if they don't die, especially against the priest. They're just gonna heal it up and you just wasted a 7 mana spell. I would have, again, you just need to save this card for when the creature guy has a lot of characters in his board. Blow them all up, it'd be amazing. Creature heavy deck, I wouldn't put it in there. This card is meant for a spell heavy deck, secret heavy deck. Archmage Autonidus. This card, really, to be quite honest, is not as good as you think it would be. By turn 7, honestly, if you're playing, this card is meant to be in a spell heavy deck. By turn 7, you're playing a spell heavy deck, the guy should already be at maybe like 15 health. Being able to waste 7 mana on something that's not a spell that deals direct damage to their face is, I don't view it to be as good. Maybe this card will see better use in future expansions when more cards come out. Maybe the meta will slow down, but unfortunately the meta is about speed. If you had a choice between 2 blizzards and no archmage, or 1 archmage and 1 blizzard, go with the blizzard all day long. It's much more mana effective. You know, if this guy had charge, I would put him in there. The guy just is just sitting there. You have to wait until you use him until next turn. Just not worth it. You know, it's your character should already almost be dead by the time this guy comes out. Pyroblast. What can be said about it? 8 mana and 10 damage. Come on. Knock down a third of their life. It's ridiculous. I would advise, though, against putting this in a creature heavy deck. Your 8 mana slot should be for your big beefy guys. Obviously, if you don't put this in your spell heavy deck, you should not be playing Hearthstone.